Sorry. Welcome to Conscious Cafe Global. Today we have a very exciting session with Jessica Adams. Jessica has been with us before. Astrologer par excellence, British born but Australian based in Melbourne today. And she's the author of several books. Her latest book, late last year, was Your Birthday. And she's written in many glossy magazines and been very well known for predicting dates. And she has a super session for us today. So she's going to talk through that and then guide you into tarot cards. And I'm going to suggest that you write the questions you might have in the chat, and I'm going to be monitoring those. And Jessica, we're going to give you a lovely global welcome from all over the world.
You.
There you go. Thank you.
Lots of hands. So thanks for coming along. And what we're going to do today is get you set up for Uranus in Gemini, which is a rare cycle. You've not had this in your adult life. And it's basically, I'll just say, Fleur's also saying, is the sound level for both speakers a bit low? Could the mic volumes be increased? Let's see if I can do mine. Thanks, Fleur.
Very loud for me, Jessica. So maybe
Mine's sort of set at the levels of an AC/DC concert. So that's as far as I'm going. What we're going to do today is walk you through your solar chart and your sun sign chart, which is, we always begin with that. I'll look at your personal birth chart. I'll take questions in live chat. I'll also take questions in a session on my website after this is over and into Monday all around the world, so that if you don't have time today or you want to be anonymous and keep it private, you can do that. What else we're going to do is get you to pull your modern I Ching card and your tarot card for the whole of the cycle, which starts on July 7th, 2025 and takes you through to the year 2033. So Uranus is always about the big reset. It's always about a series of electrical storms in your life which release all the tension and change everything in the blink of an eye. It's quite normal for Uranus to enter a new zodiac sign and for there to be literal electrical storms. So given that you're having a very hot summer there in England, I don't think anybody would be hugely surprised if July 6, 7, 8, you've got that happening there. It's very much about enlightenment, and it's also about radical change that sets you free. And the key phrase when you're drawing your tarot card and your I Ching card from my website, which we'll get to a bit later, is where will I be freed from? What will I be freed from? Or who will I be freed from? And also who or what can set me free? Because there's a bit of a difference there. Those of you who are born under the sign of Aries, for example, will find that there are questions here about brothers and sisters and cousins, but also just neighbours in general around the neighbourhood, and also the internet and the world of education and publishing. They sound quite disparate, but they're actually connected because from childhood, your brothers and sisters and cousins were probably tied to the neighbourhood scene. You were all on your bicycles running around. And the idea of words, your way with words and language and communication also comes from that too, because they are the people who teach you new words that you've never heard before. Now that you're an adult, it's always about the World Wide Web. And in a general global sense, even if you're not an Aries, what we're going to see starting on July 7 is a series of changes that liberate us from the web and through the web. Because I'm sure you'll agree, the internet, since its inception, has become a jungle. It reminds me of walking through a jungle where you have to separate the branches and you have kind of hack your way through. And it was never meant to be like that. So that's one of the first things that Uranus and Gemini is going to change. So if you're in Aries, that will affect you quite personally, maybe because of your work, maybe because of your leisure. But brothers and sisters and cousins are in there too. That's very much the case for you, Aries. The other thing for you, if you're born under that sun sign, is that this is about transport. It's about short haul travel and commuting. This is the cycle that brought us the hot air balloon, which at the time was completely shocking. So whatever it is, and it may be an air taxi that flies you across the English Channel from Kent to Calais, whatever it is going to leave jaws on the floor, because that's what Uranus does. And yeah, as I said, back in the day, it was the hot air balloon on another cycle. So that's what you're up for. More recently, it was the Vespa. So the idea of Uranus, if you're an Aries, is tied to freedom. Free as a bird, unusual, unconventional way to get from A to B. Now, of course, the Vespa and the Lambretta, which was created on the same cycle, look quite old-fashioned, retro, vintage. But at the time, it was this incredible way, it was particularly for women. If you watched Audrey Hepburn, on a film in the 1950s, it was this sort of liberating, exhilarating, exciting way to zip around. So whatever's coming for you, Aries, is on the level of the Vespa and the Lambretta in the 1940s or the hot air balloon a few centuries before. If you're a Taurus, then this cycle is going to be a bit of a relief for you because you've had years and years of image, reputation, appearance, and profile issues, and it's been so unpredictable for you since 2018. So, July 7 is a bit of a breather from all of that. You get a break from it until November. It's back very briefly until April 2026, and then it stops. It's just over. So for you, it's like, well, I've done the image thing. Okay, that's finished. And the next cycle for you is very personal because it's about money. It's about property and business and charity, possessions. It's about houses and apartments and currency and shares. It's about taxation and insurance, your pension and your superannuation. And the reason that I said it's personal is that you are in charge of this stuff in astrology anyway. Taurus rules the second house. And what you're experiencing in your solar chart is Uranus going through your second house. So, what you're going to meet, I mean, we've already been through the unpredictable cycle of Donald Trump's tariffs, 50% to the EU coming from nowhere. We've been through cryptocurrency, which is completely mad. Bitcoin and its rivals have been so peculiar. But for you, maybe you now begin all that, or you're part of a wave of change which wants to liberate yourself from the banking system, which would be a very Taurus thing to do. Even if you're not a Taurus, the key to this planet and its cycle is you ask yourself, where am I not free? Where do I feel hidebound, trapped, restricted, confined, and tied up? Because that's the first place that Uranus is going to cut the ties very suddenly, like an electrical storm, and allow you to break with the past. And it does this repeatedly until 2033. So if you are a Taurus, if you're thinking about things like taxation, if you're thinking about things like the mortgage or the loan on your credit card and so on, or the whole system of borrowing in order to buy and all the rest of it, leave a space in your life starting on July 7 because the more you can clear the decks and leave a space, the more free you will be. This is not the time to get very heavily tied up with heavily binding agreements with others. It's not the time to go wheeling into some sort of loan or mortgage that's going to restrict you to a fixed interest rate because Uranus is going to come along and change everything in the blink of an eye. It is a really good time to be open to what comes. And I think what we're going to see for your sign is something that you've not seen in your adult life. And it will make you free. It will make you free. If you're a Gemini, this cycle is about the inner life. Lots of people around you won't even know what you're going through. It's internal, it's secret, it's private. It may be about your religious upbringing or the religion that you have now. It may be about the tarot, the I Ching, psychics, psychology, therapy, counselling, hypnosis. It's on that level, it's within. And Uranus going through your cycle now is going to go from Taurus, the inner self, into your outer self, Gemini, the first house of externals and image and profile, in a kind of a zigzag pattern. So what's going on at the moment is July 7, it's all about you, the way that you appear to the world, your title, your face, your social media profile. And then as we go to November, you're back again with the internal process of changing on the inside. And then you come out again in April next year, 2026, with the full Uranus and Gemini cycle. So it's very much about you, and you will need more time alone. You will need to be by yourself more. That's quite normal. And it's not ego and it's not narcissism. You do need to think about how you were seen and perceived. And what will happen for you until 2033 is a series of events that liberate you from the past. If you felt profiled and fenced in and stereotyped by other people, if you've been dragging around issues with the way that you appear physically, maybe you're overweight, maybe you're bald, maybe you want contact lenses or laser eye surgery, all that stuff is the first thing that Uranus goes for. Uranus also rules new inventions. So if you are a Gemini, there will be new inventions that just come from nowhere over the next few years that have a direct impact on the way that you look and appear. And some of these will be online. So you'll be in spaces on the internet where you have a different, not just an avatar, but you have a different personality and a different version of yourself walking around in places like this just as if it was completely real. That's the way the technology is taking you. So loads of Geminis will be using their twin, sign of the twins, double identity, and find it quite liberating, actually. Now, if you're a Cancerian, then you have Uranus going through Gemini into your zone of God and not God. So all of us are brought up with some kind of concept of God, whether we call it that from our culture or not. And we may have been brought up without it, so our parents did not believe and it wasn't part of our life. Or we may have been brought up in a school or a family where there was a very big concept of religion. So we may have been born, into a family of gods, plural, if we're Indian, or we may have been born into a particular mindset if we're Roman Catholic, Jewish, and so on. This cycle in the Middle Ages was very much about religion, and it still is, even though religion might not touch your life that much at the moment. For some of you, it's a very big deal. And basically, what you get with Uranus is what we call the rejection dance. So you reject God or gods, you reject aspects of religion, and in turn, you find that people that are in that space are rejecting you. They distance themselves from you. But through that comes freedom and liberation and independence from. For some people, God is represented through things like tarot or astrology. It comes through things like a belief in therapy or Carl Jung or the rejection of religion through a therapist's couch. And again, that is a kind of belief all by itself. If that sounds familiar, again, it may be that you reject that or it rejects you. This cycle is really therapeutic in the pure sense of the term, in that it makes you free. So, free on the inside. This is the cycle. If you talk to other signs that have been through this before you, you will find out that Gemini people, for example, may have pursued cognitive behavioral therapy, or they may have given their religious upbringing the sack, or they may have pursued hypnosis or meditation. But what they found was that they could unlock a key into a lock inside themselves and break free that way. And that's what's coming up for you if you're born under the sign of Cancer, the crab. If you're a Leo, then this is about your social life. It's about social media. And actually, you will be most impacted by the changes to come because the old days of American corporations owning social media, Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, and also, of course, Elon Musk, are going to be completely obliterated by 2033. It may happen even faster than we think. But for you, because this is about friends and groups, you're going to find that the absolute transformation of social media online, and even for a long period of time, the end of the internet, because we will be offline for reasons that we don't know yet, is going to revolutionize the way that you socialize. On a more personal level, it's about time to look at friends and to ask yourself, do I have a friendship which confines me, restricts me, or ties me down? Because if so, that's first in line for Uranus. It will change or it will go. That's what happens on this transit. You also make new friends on this cycle who set you free. You make liberating new friends. It's also very much about the circle or the community, the team, the club, the band, the political party, the trade union, the charity, and so on. And this is the sort of cycle when you join something new and you find it gives you a completely exhilarating new lease of life, a great reset. But there's also the other way with Uranus. If you are part of a group and you feel very hidebound by it and you feel it's a bit of a ball and chain, then unless you do something to consciously loosen the ball and chain or even drop it, what tends to happen on this transit is that for reasons unknown, it goes. So, for example, if you're in a band, if you're a Leo, and you feel that the band is dragging you down or fencing you in, it may be that the band just stops. It's a bit like Spinal Tap, the drummer explodes in the middle of a gig. It's on that level. And if you're a Leo like Barack Obama or Bill Clinton, and you've got the Democrat Party, and there's any aspect of that that you feel is a ball and chain, wow, that's the first thing to go. So that's Leo. Now, if you're a Virgo, what you're going through is professional, academic, or about your unpaid vocation. And it's very much about understanding that you are free to do differently what you used to do before. So a lot of Virgo people will get a second job or a side hustle, and the side hustle ends up being this incredibly liberating experience for them. So it's a bit like your day job is your bread and butter, and then you've got the icing on the cake. And it will happen very quickly. So it may happen in July and August this year, or you may find that when you get to Gemini season in 2026, so May, June, July, that out of the blue, you are shown an opportunity to either ditch what you had, jettison it, or acquire something else which you feel gives you far more space and autonomy and room to move. The key word for Uranus is independence. You also need to understand that there's no more permanent employment or fixed lifetime commitment to a company or a corporation or an administration or a university on this cycle. Those days are over when Uranus goes into Gemini and your solar 10th house. So being flexible and keeping it all a bit loosey-goosey is a really good idea. If you're born under the sign of Libra, then this transit is going to be compatible with you because Uranus will trine your sun at some point. So, in terms of your partnerships with other people, that works really well for you. There'll be a good year in this cycle between 25 and 2033 when the two of you, for work or for personal reasons, just take off. Okay. And it will be partly because of foreigners and foreign countries and foreign people in your own town or country, but also very much you might relocate or emigrate. You may decide to get an Airbnb where a lot of foreign people come through. You may learn a foreign language or enroll at a university with a lot of international students. You may decide to explore your options in another culture or country, even if you don't leave home. And again, it will happen very suddenly. There's a connection between the ninth house of your chart, Libra, which Gemini rules, and also the bigger picture in terms of study, teaching, publishing, and the World Wide Web. And those changes that I mentioned at the start, the World Wide Web is going to be drastically hit by this cycle, will personally affect you. So there will be a complete rethink of the way that the internet operates. There are situations out there online which are basically entrapment. There's no other word for it. And that's going to go. That's what Uranus does. But we're also going to see the rise and rise of alternative internets, different internets. And you may be one of the pioneers of that because that's what this transit is all about for you. If you do have a connection already to a foreign country or a foreign person and you find it very limiting and you find that it fences you in, it may change or even go as early as September this year. If you're born under the sign of Scorpio, then this is about finance, property, business, charity, possessions, and it's very much about two and three-way arrangements. So typically a marriage and a mortgage, but also a family inheritance, a trust fund for your children. It may be about a de facto relationship where you both split the rent together. And as this is really your natal chart as well, because you were born with the sun in the eighth house of joint finance, it feels intensely personal. Scorpio is a sign that we associate with sex, death, and money, to put not too fine a point on it. You are very much linked to life insurance, the part of the marriage vow that says, until death do us part, for sickness and health, richer, poorer, all of that. Scorpio is associated with intricate, complex, multi-layered relationships and marriages, but also with the legacy that you leave to others and the legacy left to you by others. And this is where Uranus is going to come sweeping through your horoscope in the sign of Gemini until 2033. So what you had assumed and what you might have thought or guessed at is no longer relevant. And it's very important that you keep on talking both to the person concerned or the people concerned, and particularly to your accountant. We do associate this cycle with taxation because, of course, one of the places that the government comes looking for you is inheritance. So stay on the ball with policy decisions being made out there that may also affect your own financial holdings. if there's any part of your family money situation or property situation, your marriage or your partnership, where you feel very hemmed in, then you've already heard what I said to the other signs. It's not going to last. It either has to change on this transit or it has to go stage left. And this is the sort of cycle when the last thing that you expected to happen is often the first thing that happens. It's a good idea to communicate as much as possible, even though these issues are often taboo and we don't like to discuss the contents of our will or anybody else's will. And we certainly don't want to go back to the original contract that we signed when we got married. You sometimes just have to talk about these things, and that will become necessary for you, Scorpio, whether this is with an old partner or whether it's with somebody new that you become involved with in the bedroom, but also at the bank in the next couple of years. Now, if you're a Sagittarius talking about relationships, it may actually be with another Scorpio or Sagittarius that this is played out, but you're going to hit the classic Uranus challenge, the challenge to change. The partnership, whether it's work or whether it's personal or whether it's platonic, so you both share a house but not a bedroom, whatever your duet is, has to keep moving. You know, I think Woody Allen said a relationship's like a shark, it has to keep moving to survive. And over the next few years, you're going to discover that because unless it feels honest and free and open and authentic, unless it allows you plenty of autonomy and space, then it's beginning to look like something that Uranus will have a go at. So if you don't want to experience the classic Uranus shockwaves, it's very important to constantly update yourself on what you've got with the other person. And it may be a work partnership. There's also this path with Uranus, which is about the unconventional, the inventive, the innovative, and the unique, the unorthodox, and the unprecedented. And you make it up. You invent it. So you may be quite happily married to somebody, but along comes this transit and you feel as if you have to reinvent the rules of what you've agreed with each other. So this is the transit in the 70s when people would go for an open marriage or a ménage à trois. It's also the cycle when if you married for money or you married for the children, you're only staying married because you want the security. You really need to get in there pretty quickly on this transit and have a look at yourself and the other person and maybe look at the history of this cycle through your life and the lives of other people because it is notorious in astrology for asking us to get real and honest with ourselves very quickly. If you're a Capricorn, then this transit is going to go through the sign of Gemini in your sixth house of workload and well-being. This is quite important if you have anything in Virgo in your natal chart because you're also having a transit in Virgo in 25, 26. Even if you're not, or you don't know, you are likely to find that your lifestyle is reshaped repeatedly, year after year, in terms of how you look after yourself. The 24 hours in every day, you have 8 hours for sleep, 8 hours for play, and 8 hours for work, including unpaid work like housework or study or volunteering. And what Uranus does is say to you, you do have a duty statement and you do have a service to perform, whether it's walking the dog or feeding the children or turning up to work for the man. But as long as it keeps you feeling alive and connected to the sort of electrical currents that are running out there in life, that's fine. I'm not going to get in your way. But Uranus will say to you, if you're doing anything purely out of routine or guilt, or because you're doing it for the money, and your body is acting up, particularly if you've got health issues that are getting in the way of working or volunteering or doing the housework or studying, that's a pretty big warning light. You're being told that actually there's a part of you that is in complete disagreement with what you're doing. And that's where Uranus comes barreling in and makes you quite aware of changes that are going to happen in your workplace or even at home unless you do something about it. But I would say the body is your priority. Mental health and physical health are ruled by this transit. And if there is anything there that has made you feel trapped for years, this is the sort of cycle that sorts it out for you. So we're almost getting to the end of the horoscope now before we take a quick break. Aquarius, you're ruled by Uranus. So you feel completely au fait with this cycle, which is always about shock waves, rather like an electrical storm that comes from nowhere. Lightning strikes, often in the middle of the night. You're woken up by it. This is associated with a wake-up call for you, very much to do with the younger generation and also close relationships. When you have those moments in the past where you remember being woken by a storm and seeing the lightning through the window, particularly if it was sheet lightning, it would have illuminated the whole of the night sky. So you're in this strange position of seeing the landscape brightly lit, even though it's 2 or 3 in the morning. That's exactly what's going to happen in terms of babies, infants, children, teenagers, and younger adults. You may or may not be a parent, a godparent, an aunt, or an uncle. You may or may not be a teacher or somebody involved with younger people in your career or your unpaid work. But that generation is coming to find you because you have to reinvent the wheel there. And according to this transit, if you put it off, then Uranus cycling through the sign of Gemini is likely to give you that electrical storm. There's a necessary new path here that's already been showing up for quite a while, whether it's your older child leaving home for the first time, or whether it's pursuing IVF or adoption if you want to have a child of your own. There are many variations on the theme. It's also very much about the bedroom and courtship. And Uranus brings new inventions. It brought everything from the Jeep, to radar. So when it comes to your private life, what's going to happen is completely unknown to you at the moment, but it will absolutely alter the way that you date, mate, and relate. And of course, it's going to be online but offline too. And it will be quite liberating and exhilarating for you. If there's anything in your marriage or your de facto partnership, if there's anything in your family that's left you chafing at the bit for a very long time, then that absolutely has to change or go. And it will probably do so when you get to May, June, July 2026, if you've not done anything about it by August 2025. Last sign is Pisces. So this is all about your home life, your house or apartment, your extended family circle, your ancestry sometimes, and your relationship with your own ancestors, because of course in many families they still affect you today. It's about your real estate if you have any, and it's very much about your town and country. And Uranus comes along, and in the blink of an eye you have to make a decision. If there's anything about your town or country that has made you feel restricted for quite a long time, but you felt that you are unable to do anything about it, the last thing that you expect will happen and make it possible for you to leave. So we're going to see a lot of Pisces relocating and emigrating between now and 2033. And it will happen because of a catalyst that you just not counted on. So it's a good idea to be quite loosey-goosey about things like mortgages, locking yourself in with a long-term interest rate, or committing yourself to going on where you are. Because if there's a small part of you that feels trapped by that, that's the first thing that's going to go. The family circle inevitably changes on this transit. So if you talk to people who had this cycle before you, you'll soon discover that what they went through was the departure of someone from the family for whatever reason, the arrival of somebody. So it may be that your uncle gets a new girlfriend, she becomes part of the tribe. The household itself, the flatmates and roommates change. But every time it happens, there's a feeling that it's somehow unique, that there's something here without a rule book, and that sets you free to experiment and to see what it feels like to have a completely new reset. It's also very much about the architecture and the garden, the house or the apartment itself. And sometimes people have this cycle and find that it extends to the local area. So the council may change and the council may make changes, or you discover that there are new inventions out there that you've just not dreamed of that can suddenly and very quickly liberate you from your old home and the old way that it was built or constructed. So it's a good idea to keep your nose there with what's happening out there in the land of building development. For you, Pisces, this year and also next year, we also have a generally great trend for building and real estate and property. It doesn't matter what's going on in your part of the world. If you're prepared to move or make changes, you can grab an advantage. So it may be a change in house prices, for example. You may find that the value of your home has gone up, and somewhere else in the world, things are going out at bargain prices. If you're prepared to and able to make a quick change, then 25, 26 is really built for you in terms of that Jupiter in Cancer transit as well. Okay, Gina, I'll hand back to you.
Yeah. Well, that was a run of so fluent. Shall we? Do you want to go now? We only have one question so far, and it might not be the right time to answer it, and that is about the astrology delivery. And I know I've made 3 notes of dates, and it's the Uranus astrology delivery. Do you want to talk about that now, or do you want people to go off and, as you said, to get a tarot card? What would you like to do?
Yeah, I'll just answer that quickly before we do go off and do our tarot cards. So, astrology delivery is a way of getting some or all of what you want. It's completely free to try on my website. We've been doing it for a couple of years. If you are doing it and you're looking for Gemini booking, then you should have already started. Okay, so Irvi, if you've started already, great. If you haven't, don't worry. You can start again next year. For those of you who are curious, we've road tested this for a couple of years. You basically write down what you want on the dates that I give you, pertinent to your sign and also the weather out there in astrology. And we will be hitting Gemini weather halfway through 2026, which is ideal for trying to get some or all of what you want in those life areas that I've mentioned. But I'll put the rest of that on my website after this session. Um, oh, thank you. That's very kind of you. So I think
Is
what we
it
can
too
do
late? Because I've got 3 dates for astrology delivery of July 5, 8, and 31. Is it too late to do something on those dates if you didn't already start?
you could start. You know what? We've never done this before, but have a go and tell me what happens.
Okay. All
Have
right
a
then.
go.
Right.
But,
Dates.
if we
Okay.
come back at about, should we come back at about 10, 11 past? What you're going to do is go to the top of the chat and find the link to the tarot and the I Ching. I'll just do that now. On my website, you'll just see them right at the top there. Draw one I Ching card and one tarot card. And your question is, what is the potential for me, you, on this Uranus and Gemini transit?
So they go on your website, they click an I Ching and a tarot. What is the potential for me? The keyword is the potential
Yeah.
in this cycle, which is beginning on July the 7th.
That's right, until 2033. Take a screenshot of the cards or just make a note of them. And when we come back, we can chat about what it means for you. So,
Welcome back. So Jessica, hopefully everybody got their cards and their screenshot, as did I. I don't know how you want to play it because I don't particularly have any questions, but you did talk to us early on about the significance in this phase of siblings, and I don't know whether you want to talk about that now.
yeah, so just briefly, getting back to your birth chart, we've done your solar or sun sign chart. But if you have Gemini factors in your natal chart or birth chart, in the natural house system, they're in the siblings house, the third house of brothers, sisters, half sisters and half brothers, and also your cousins. So you are going to be completely on a new course with or through your brother or sister over the next few years, and it will set you free. It will liberate you and them. What we tend to find on this cycle is that we get people who are very famous, world famous brothers and sisters acting out the issues for us so that we go through this in a kind of catharsis with them through the front pages. And the last time that we had this cycle was the abdication. We had it in the 1940s. So, through the influence of Wallace Simpson, we get Edward doing the last thing in the world that anybody expected and abdicating in favour of George, his brother, our late Queen's father. So here we are again. We're heading towards the same cycle, and Harry and William will play this out for us. And the thing to remember about that in your own life with a brother or sister, maybe a cousin, if you do have Gemini factors, is that what happens to them happens to you. It happens in a kind of a mirror or a reflection, because that's the way that this cycle works for you. So yeah, watch out for that. It will set you free, and them.
I don't know what's happening. People unmuted here. Don't want to unmute or lose you. There's a question here about grab. It's moving. I'm trying to find it again. What were you referring to in regards to the internet? Maybe because it affects everybody. Speak a little bit more about this big change in the internet you're referring to.
Yeah, so on a psychic level, I had a vision of my computer going black. Too much fun. We wouldn't know what to do with ourselves if we lost the internet or we lost our computers. And I want to say we in the Western countries of the world, we're so used to it. It's almost like an extension of our hand. But I think it's going to happen, whether it's caused by terrorist attacks or whether it's caused by hackers, whether it's a function of something that's naturally caused, I don't know. But we'll have enough of a break from it to be able to reset our relationship with it. So Gemini rules the web. Back in days of yore, it used to rule the printing press. In fact, the printing press was invented on Uranus and Gemini, the cycle that we're heading for next. And therefore, we can expect to have in the digital world, possibly through AI or our rejection of AI, maybe because of other factors that are yet to be revealed, we are not going to have the same web. If you were born with anything in Sagittarius in your birth chart, so you were born maybe with Uranus, Neptune, or Pluto in Sagittarius, you are part of a generation of World Wide Web users who are right across the world. You are world citizens digitally. But what's going to happen to you between now and 2033 is that Uranus will oppose your Sagittarius factors. So you will be blocked and stopped from the World Wide Web, the world aspect of it particularly. My thought would be that we're heading towards a local internet because Uranus and Gemini is about the new local. You know what it's like when you live in a big city like London or New York and you don't know who your neighbours are in the apartment block. That's all going to change. Uranus has had enough of those sort of restricted situations, and the huge concentration of power and money at the very top of the American internet through Google, through X Twitter, through Instagram, and the rest of them has meant that we have lost our local connection, or our local connection is being channeled through a US corporation. I don't know about you, but I find it really weird. If I lose my dog in my local area here in Australia, I have to rely on a Facebook group to help me find it. I have to go through Mark Zuckerberg to find my dog. So Uranus in Gemini is about the local revolution online. And if you do have Sagittarius factors and or Gemini factors, you're really going to notice it affecting your life quite personally and directly when it happens.
You mentioned about the new local. I don't know whether you want to expand on that and talk about transport changes. You've spoken before about changes in transport, and you also alluded to in this phase about boundaries and borders.
Yes, that's really interesting because the last time that we had the cycle, Gina, was the war, the 1940s. So Gemini rules the neighbours and it rules neighbouring places and borders and boundaries. And it also rules the way that you get from A to B across those boundaries and borders. So the sitting duck here is France and England because during the 1940s, the English Channel became the setting for Uranus and Gemini, whether it was Dunkirk or whether it was the Battle of Britain. The relationship between France and Britain was forever revolutionised and changed. These old enemies, became firm allies, the Free French and the British during the last war, the last thing anybody ever expected. And the channel itself, and things like Dunkirk, which was so Uranian, unique, unconventional, made us aware of the fact that it doesn't have to follow a formula. There are strange things out there waiting to happen. So that's going to happen again. And the particular focus of this is going to be people smugglers operating from France to Britain. Okay, that's going to get hit quite hard. You're going to see a different sort of English Channel and a different France-England relationship. But it's not just about that. If we're talking about neighbouring places, then within America, you're looking at California and California's relationship to the rest of the United States. There are things in America now which are so obviously taking that country towards a rift or a break with the past, towards independence within independence. And because of the differences that are happening politically, we're very likely to see places like New York and California, Los Angeles, going their own separate way from whatever else is happening out there. And you can go within a country too. So within Australia, you can go to the States and the States' relationship with each other, but you can also go to neighbouring countries. So Australia and New Zealand, France and England, Canada and America. We're already seeing Canada and America go in separate directions. This is going to affect transport, and it's going to affect transport in ways that we cannot imagine. So everybody's speculating about electric cars and all sorts of wonderful things like flying taxis. But what's going to come is as weird as the hot air balloon was to people on another Uranus and Gemini cycle. The last war coincided with the arrival of the Jeep, which basically was invented because the US Army needed it. And the Jeep is the ancestor of today's four-wheel drive. The thought that you would be taking children to the supermarket in a US Army vehicle, would have stunned and amazed people in the 1940s, but that's typical of Uranus, the unexpected, in Gemini, commuting and short journeys. So what we're looking at with transport and public transport in particular, but also your car, maybe even your boat, is out of the box. And in true Uranus style, it won't land until after July. And then it will go on landing until 2033. I personally can't wait. Bring it on.
I've told you already I want a flying car. I can't wait for that
You
one.
have you have
I-
admitted that to me,
I've
Gina.
got a photograph of one I found somewhere. Somebody pointed out that Trump is Gemini. I don't know whether you want to put spotlight on him for a minute.
Yeah, Donald has given two birth dates to the authorities. He's been done for done like a dog's dinner really for falsifying business records. So I don't use the supplied data. I find it unreliable. The data that was supplied a long time ago didn't work. So I really question what his birth date actually is, and I don't accept he's necessarily a Gemini. He may be a Cancerian. He gave a Cancerian birth date to the New York authorities the second time round. So he's a bit of a mystery man. But in terms of, if that's the question you're asking, what happens to him and what happens around him, he is a symbol of something that is tied to the past, and the past is falling away. I have been tracking Donald for years, even though there are times when I'd rather not do it. And if you look at the American chart or the US chart, he is in a spiral. He is in a slow downward spiral. He comes up and then he spirals down again. He comes up and he spirals down again. So ultimately, it will be a downward spiral.
In that downward spiral as leader of the US, is he bringing the US down? You talked about borders. What about all those borders within the USA where the USA, United States of America, brought together? Is there a change within linked to all these borders changing?
Yeah, if we follow the pattern of history on this Uranus and Gemini cycle, again going back to the war, the 1940s is such a spectacular example of this. If you look at the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, Ireland was split into regions which were with England or not with England in fighting Nazi Germany. So the United Kingdom, the British Isles, was separated by political differences. The other thing that I've not talked about is climate emergency. So, on a practical level, it makes perfect sense to me that borders within countries like America and the United Kingdom would change because of flooding. So, if you look at a map of the United Kingdom, Wales and Scotland in particular, and the rivers and the waterways there, if we see flooding, we're going to see a physical change on the map. And this goes beyond political issues like Israel and Gaza, neighbours, into questions about actual physical geography. The most spectacular example of this transit is the division of Germany, the Berlin Wall, East Germany and West Germany, and that happened on Uranus and Gemini. So whoever your neighbours are now, your neighbouring country, your neighbouring county, state or territory, even your neighbouring town, will change for one reason or another.
I've just pointed out about the change in the USA, how it affecting the UK near and long term, because we have this special relationship, don't we? We're like cousins in a sense. So how would
Yes.
that relationship, bordered by the huge sea in between, how do you think that might shift?
It's very interesting because, of course, the Kremlin want the special relationship to be destroyed. the Kremlin are pretty old-fashioned, and they use the sort of World War II playbook. So you'd have to be asleep not to realize what they've been trying to do, which is to chip, 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 chip away at the United States, the United Kingdom, and their partnership with each other, because that's what won the war last time. Does it work? No, it's an absolute failure. The funny thing about the Kremlin, they do, I mean, they have astrologers all through Moscow. I went to a conference there, but the funny thing about them is that they've got no idea about fundamental astrology 101. And we are now going through Pluto in Aquarius. So if you don't have women in your power structure, if you don't have women at the top, then you are utterly doomed to failure, because we are in a 20-year cycle when the only power and the only control goes through women in a male-female equal sharing relationship. So, countries like Russia and also places like Korea, where you see this ridiculous kind of overload of males, just out of step with the times. The power is with the people, and it's with 50% women. It's not with an all-male lineup anymore.
That's something that Renula was asking about, the transit changing the power men in politics, and everything's superficial, she said. So you're flagging up there that women are going to be needed moving forward, supported, embraced in power structures, what you're saying.
They're pretty powerful. I mean, nobody likes to talk about Stormy Daniels. I love talking about Stormy Daniels because she's a very good tarot reader, as well as being a very good film director. She is the woman who made sure that when Donald went to the White House, he was the first convicted felon in American history to ever become president. That's down to her. He took the White House, with that mark on his record because of her. So if you want to talk about women and their influence, that was just day one. This cycle goes for 20 years. I'll never be allowed into America now. I've said that.
Ooh. They're watching, actually, aren't they? Yeah, we all have to be careful. 27 minutes past the hour. There's a question here about Zelensky. Believe Zelensky is an Aquarian as ruled by Uranus. Will this help him and end the war? Karen asks.
Yeah, the funny thing about Ukraine is that if you believe Biden, and I did, I predicted that the war would end. And President Biden, it was actually at a Conscious Cafe with you, Gina, and it was very clear from the tarot and the astrology that they would not win the war, that in fact they would lose the war. And they did lose the war, as Biden said, but they're still hanging in there. There's a big difference between persisting and remaining, even though you're losing men and money hand over fist, and you never achieved your ultimate aim and your ultimate ambition and the rest of it. So I guess for people who are living there, who are maybe in this session, of course, they're desperate to know what happens, what happens. What seems to be most likely is that there will be a border change on the map, and that unfortunately you will have to see the Kremlin taking some of those lines on the map away from you. But ultimately, we have so much female power in Ukraine's allies across the European Union, NATO, the EU, that I don't think that the Kremlin stand much chance. The power is not with the men in the suits, it's with the women who share with the men.
Hallelujah, praise the Lord. That sounds great. We're coming up to the end of our hour, and we know that you're on a different time zone to us, and it's late. We do have a few people who I've pulled out the general questions, and we do have a few people who, explain what they've got. But, that would take us another hour to do that. How do you want to play that? Would you like those people to copy that? You said you've got some space on your website. And then you can answer the question where they've said what cards they've got, or scan them. Would that work for people to just copy and paste their question and place it where?
You don't need to scan your card. You can just tell me the name of the card, or cards plural. You go to jessicaadams.com after we finished in the next half hour or so. I'm just going to put the kettle on and sit down and go through your queries and questions there. And if you're a premium member of my website, your chart will come up on the screen, so I can actually read your chart as well. And it's all anonymous. Okay, it's all private.
Okay. So as we're moving to closings, Judy is just, is there any message for the UK? And did you want to do a tarot card for us? pull one out now. You pull one, either for us in the group or for the UK. Mind you, there are other countries here, so why would we just pull out one country?
Why not? Well, Spirit just came in then, Gina. As you know, I'm a medium and they're ever happy to talk to us. So I'm using the Smith-Waite Tarot deck.
Yep. But hold it. Yeah, that's it. I got it in front of you.
And if you're looking for a tarot deck, I strongly recommend it because it's the perfect channel for astrology and mediumship. So I will just ask a question about a message for everybody in this session about Uranus in Gemini, and let's see what comes through. I do have a man in the spirit world with me, a bearded gentleman. Actually, I know who it is. It's an old astrologer. Great. Okay, so let's see what happens. Wow. Okay, so the card I have is the Four of Coins.
Oh
Now
no,
that's going to.
hold it near your chest. Hold it near your chest. Yeah, I think we've got. That's it. We've got. Yeah, yeah. And what number is it? Yeah.
Okay, so this is the Four of Pentacles or the Four of Coins, and it's about property. This doesn't surprise me because between now and June 2026, we are in an amazing period for real estate, whether you rent or own or you invest, whether your concern is an apartment, a house, a block of land, or a garden. There is tremendous potential here for negotiation, deal making, renovation, repair, and also politically, there is huge potential for a recalibration of the whole situation financially and with the property market. So that message is for everyone who's here. If you have anything in Cancer in your natal chart, Jupiter, which is the planet of opportunity and solutions, is going through Cancer and it will make a conjunction with your Cancer factors. In plain English, you've got a hot spot in your chart tied to property and money, whether you rent or own, whether you want to move or whether you're happy where you are. And that is going to be triggered in a fantastic way between here and June 2026. So, wherever you are in the world, there is something going on out there that you need to keep tracking. And when the time is right, you need to do a deal. Do a deal. But look at the market as often as you can because the market is waiting for you to look at it. And I would have thought that was privileged information for everyone in this session. It's not enough. The second message is that it's not enough to have money in the bank or Bitcoin or to feel that you've got enough in terms of your salary or your income. This card wants you to look at the apartments and the houses and the land and also the local environment, the natural local environment around your town, city, or village, and step back from it and look at it in terms of what's absolutely valuable there because you do stand to gain from it. I'm getting the message too. So I kind of know what they're talking about in terms of my gaff here in Australia.
Well, we've got this recorded. People can listen to that again in detail
Yeah.
and assess what that is. I think we need to have some clear instructions so people really understand. I've just been on the website myself and I didn't know where to go with my question. So people have taken two cards and I don't know whether they fully understand what they do in interpreting that. Do you want to interpret one card?
Yeah, let's use this as an example. So you went to my website, which you can still do, and you drew an I Ching card and a tarot card to answer your question. What is my potential with Uranus in Gemini, July 7, 2025 to the year 2033? So let's do this as an example and walk you through it.
Okay. So somebody's got as a tarot King of Wands,
Yeah.
and Modesty 15 on the I Ching. So those are the two
Okay.
cards they've got.
Okay, so this man or a series of men who are like him turn up between here and 2033 with a project, a plan, a brainwave, a concept that they are procrastinating about, that they don't know what to do with. They're either frightened of their own success with it or they're frightened of failure. Your task, if you should accept it, is to help them get this off the ground because the idea or the brainwave is never going to work unless they make a move. If you were a man or are a man, this is about you. I'm suspecting that you're a woman because
So this
most
is a
people.
man. No, this is a man who's a Libra, who's identified himself as.
Oh, I beg your pardon. So it's you. It's you. You are that man. And here you have Uranus going through your third house on paper and digital ideas and concepts, but you are not moving on them and you need to move on them. So find somebody that you can delegate to who can help you make it real. Now, the modesty card goes with that. I should have thought that you were being too modest about your ability. So you have been maybe raised to not blow your own trumpet or step forward or broadcast or even be proactive about what you've got to share and grow. But actually, that's not going to work on this transit. I wouldn't want you to waste what you've got because it has massive potential until 2033. So don't be so modest that you get in your own way. You can be humble, you can have humility, and you can be liked by people in the way that you plant something or make it real without kind of blowing your own trumpet. And yet you can also be smart about it. So, what these two cards together are telling you is go and talk to somebody that's very good at doing this and get them to help you.
Awesome, awesome. 11, it's the 36 minutes past the hour. Do you want to do one more? Or how
Yeah,
are we doing?
do
I'm
another one.
just going to pull one out of here. Somebody has put forward um, King of Cups and Shedding. Alison. Do you know that? I
Wow.
don't know. Yeah, got that?
Is this a man or a woman, please, Gina?
Alison says King of Cups and Shedding. I don't know whether we need any more information. Alison, what's your star sign? Do you want to pop that up?
Okay, so you do need to let go of this man, whether he be your husband, boyfriend, father, or another important man in your life. The shedding is the letting go of him. Unless, this is the caveat, unless he sheds his way of life, which is disconnected, self concerned, remote from the real world, probably affected by drugs or alcohol or medication. He is not in touch with you or with terra firma. He is floating, drifting, and cruising. And the only shedding that will work from your point of view is to let him go, let him be shed out of your life, unless he can shed that way of life and join a group, a team, a club, a community, or a circle, a crew, which will help him get out of that. And he may not do that. Sometimes the King of Cups just keeps on drifting and floating and cruising, but he does have that choice. So let's see the way that it goes for you. My hope for you would be that he wakes up and that he sheds his old attitude and his old way of life and he gets together with his other people and he takes a new pathway where he can meet you in the middle. That would be my hope for you.
And he's got Queen of Wands and Advancing.
Great, great, great is the only word I can think of for you. So you have a project, a plan, or an idea there, maybe a qualification as well. And it really appeals to a younger generation. Your mission, if you should accept it, is to be queen to a younger court. Now, if you look at your card, you'll see lions all over it. The queen has lions on the throne and lions behind her. Jupiter, the planet of expansion and opportunity, goes into Leo from the middle of 2026 to the middle of 2027. So that's your time for liftoff. The advancement will happen then. It's rather like being J.K. Rowling, writing in Edinburgh as a single parent with no money and being told, just send it to a publisher. It's on that level. I don't know whether that's your avenue, but you do have a strong, strong destiny here with younger people, children or teenagers. And your two cards are telling you that you need to go and chase it.
Okay, Jessica, I'm on your website and I'm not sure what I would do next. I've got them moving around. I'm not sure where I would go next to put my card in. So just to give them the,
Okay. So
what would
if you
I
go
click
to,
on?
yeah, I'll just type it in. So basically, you're going to jessicaadams.com,
Yeah.
divination. So the divination section has the modern I Ching and the tarot free to use all the time. But for something like this, which is quite focused and intense, it's a great opportunity to just draw two cards and make a note of them and keep them in your notebook and in the back of your mind all the way until 2033 because they'll keep on talking to you. Of course, you can go back to those oracles and do more personal questions. But as a general outcome of this event, which we're all sharing together, that's your roadmap.
I think everybody's full of wonderful information. And what you're sharing is, I think, with their two cards, to take some time to
Yeah.
meditate on those two images and messages and see what comes in as a melding of the two.
Yeah.
That's how we personally interpret that advice. And then I'm going to invite Judy up in a second because she's going to talk about our next event. So, Jessica, um, you're marvelous, really. I mean, it just seems to come through at lightning speed. And there is so much for us to digest. Thank goodness we recorded it. So we can hear the general picture of so much change happening from July the 7th, and also
Yeah.
from our individual signs as well. And the addition of having that potential, having that card, which you pointed out, we could do those cards at any time.
You can. So if you have more private personal questions that crop up between now, or you will, until between now and 2033, just go there and do that double reading. So the I Ching works with the tarot. It's a bit like, the chap who had modesty and the King of Staves, the King of Wands. He's being told, stop being so modest about, stop, get your project out. That they work together. So you can do that too.
Excellent. We're all
Hmm.
going to wave and say thank you and how
Thanks,
brilliant.
Tina.
We've
Thanks
enjoyed
very
it.
much, Tina. Thank you.
And I'm
We'll
going to
do it
look.
again, I hope. Okay.
Oh, we love it. We do this all every month if we could. I'm looking for Judy now.